So, I mean, you've seen it. You've seen the images. I mean, I don't really know what I could say to this. Here is Pete Buttigieg. It almost looks like, if you watch Game of Thrones, like some Game of Thrones scene. That's him in they call it a wine cave. A massive wine cellar in California's, I think it's the vineyards or what do they call it? The valley. Reed Hastings, a major player on Silicon Valley, was a co-host, I believe. And this was a who's who of rich, filthy rich tech, Silicon Valley, Wall Street, all just sipping wine under a gorgeous, I say. Look at those Swarovski crystals. Look at those crystals. I mean, you got over 500,000 people sleeping in the streets tonight during the winter. But, boy, 150 Swarovski crystals making that beautiful, beautiful chandelier tree. And Pete Buttigieg, this is who's creating this new generation, this next generation of leadership. So Bernie's campaign, I thought, very cunningly and expertly, and it shows the difference between Bernie's campaign in 2020, as opposed to 2016. Bernie's campaign was on it. I think they got the URL for winecave.com, and you go to it, and it goes right to Bernie's fundraiser page. But Bernie tweeted out, I do not spend my time, not 1 minute of one day in this campaign, going to some wealthy person's home and sitting down with other millionaires and walking out with a few $100,000. Never did that, Sanders told Cedar Rapids. Buttigieg event was held at Hall Wines in Rutherford, California on Sunday night, just outside of the Napa Valley. Tickets started at the affordable price of $500 to $1,000 to receive a photo with PD, and a $2,800 contribution. A $2,800 contribution gave attendees access to the dinner with the mayor. I just want to know what they were eating. Was it human remains of the working class? Were they eating human remains of us? The media, of course, was not given access to the private dinner. Talk about transparency. Only allowed in during remarks PD made. After receiving criticism and pressure from Warren, Buttigieg opened his fundraisers. It's disgusting. I mean, it's just completely disgusting. And this is bribery. This is legal. This is the legal bribery of our system. What's amazing to me is this guy is talking about being a moderate. This guy is talking about being a new generation of politicians, bringing something new to D.C. He's out sliming Joe Biden. Like the competition for who is the biggest servant to Wall Street, Silicon Valley, it's close. I haven't seen Joe Biden in a wine cave. I mean, he's been basically bending over at every other event in Martha's Vineyard, Washington, D.C., Bethesda, Maryland, New York City. I think his campaign actually had a fundraiser in who was it? I'll get the financial institution wrong, but it was a bank's office. But this man, Donald Trump, is this notion that Donald Trump is like jonesing to go against Bernie Sanders. This is what Chris Christie said on the Sunday shows. It's absurd. Donald Trump would eat Pete Buttigieg for lunch. Donald Trump, the fact that he's corrupt, the fact that he's getting money from all these bankers, rolls off him. His voters do not care. And that 10% of voters that voted for Obama and then switched to Trump, they are still pissed off. That's why they switched to Trump in the first place. You think they're going to move back to the Democrats if you have corruption over here with Trump and corruption over here with Pete? It's just a mess. It's just a mess. Who's going to ask Pete about this wine cave fundraiser? Who's going to ask Pete about the fact that he literally has sold off the city of South Bend to the real estate industry? Who's going to ask Pete? By the way, I'm working on this story. That's why I was kind of late. But do you know, Huffington Post did a great story on the fact that Pete Buttigieg, while working at McKinsey, literally was on the team that tried to privatize the post office. Well, guess what? I obtained his financial records from 2011. In those financial records that, shockingly, the state of Indiana destroyed his 2011 campaign finance records of who donated to him. Well, the state of Indiana destroyed it. Pete Buttigieg's campaign won't release it. The Center for Public Integrity and the Young Turks, of all places, actually obtained these. I got it separately from a source. I've been going through these donors all day. Do you know? I'm sure the U.S. Post Office wasn't aware that Pete Buttigieg, because his client list wasn't out there. Do you know that the U.S. Post Office donated to Pete Buttigieg's campaign in 2011 15 times? Almost $4,000? $4,000 is not a small amount for the post office, particularly for a South Bend, Indiana mayoral race. This is the kind of voting against our own interest, funding against our own interest. They literally, no offense to the post office, they weren't aware that he was on this team trying to privatize the post office. They literally donated close to, I think the exact number was $3,920. They literally donated $4,000 to this guy who is trying to privatize the post office. You know who was on the front lines against the privatization of the post office? Bernie Sanders. So I'm hoping, the story I'm working on is not about that. It's actually about the fact that the Obama world and a lot of people in Obama world were funding Pete Buttigieg's first mayoral campaign in 2011. Why is it that you have speechwriters for Barack Obama, consultants for Barack Obama, ambassadors for Barack Obama in 2011 donating to some random mayoral candidate in South Bend, Indiana? Because Pete Buttigieg did the one thing the Obamas of the world value. He climbed Mount Meritocracy. And Colin's not here today, but I'm going to have him make a wonderful graphic of Mount Meritocracy. He climbed Mount Meritocracy. Harvard, Oxford, Rhodes Scholar, McKinsey consultant, Afghanistan war vet. You can't get better than that. Then, when he was in his second term, he came out as gay, which more power to him. But this portfolio, you cannot create a better mold of the neoliberal identity politic machine. And that's why there's so many donations from D.C., Bethesda, Maryland, Arlington, Virginia, all of the D.C. area to some random mayoral candidate in South Bend, Indiana. It shows that they were trying to groom Pete Buttigieg when he was just 27 years old to possibly be a future predecessor to Obama. Successor, thank you. It's honestly disgusting. It's disgusting. David Sirota of the Bernie Sanders campaign. I thought this was a good tweet. There's a story, why do young progressives hate Pete Buttigieg so much? Sirota said, no, most of these explanations are not quite right. The real explanation is the simplest of all. Young people are getting absolutely crushed by the billionaires who bankroll Pete in a wine cave. Oh, Sirota. By the way, I got to tell you, I'm slightly worried about David Sirota. I'm also slightly worried about Ryan Grimm. I hope we have Medicare for all to pay for their arthritis. These people are tweeting like 5 times a minute. It's crazy. I can't keep up with David Sirota's tweets. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.